Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Setting the Scene. I'm your host David. Now, who'd have thought this series would have gone for 7 episodes? Oh man, believe me, I want to get back to filming battle reports, but it's just not possible right now. But I'm trying my best to get content out for you guys, and hopefully you've been enjoying this series. Now, what have we got for you today? I am going to introduce you to a product which I've used tons and tons of times on the channel and not really spoken about it very much, and I just think it's an absolute masterstroke and something you should definitely keep in your arsenal of battlefield building material. What is this wonder product, I hear you saying? Well, let me introduce to you, I'm sure I can find a fanfare on the computer somewhere, textured backdrops for aquariums. It's made by a company called Juwel, spelled J-U-W-E-L, and essentially is a backdrop for an aquarium. So you build your square tank or whatever size tank or shape you've got, stick this on the backdrop, stick your aggregate on the bottom, your plants, and then your fish swim in front of it, and they've got a nice sort of textured wall for them to swim in front of. Now, when I saw this at the local shop, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe I could build like a rock face or cliffs out of it or whatever. But when I brought it, I got it home and thought, well, man, I'm just going to stick it on the deck and it would be just an amazing textured surface to simulate, a rocky plateau or a planet surface. And I've used it to great effect in both Adeptus Titanicus and 30K. It's brilliant. Let's talk about price, because that's really important. They are a little expensive. I think they're around the high 30s, early 40s, so about 38 to 42 pounds. And I think I bought this one for about 38 quid, I think. I can't honestly remember. Okay, it is a bit pricey, I totally get that, but the way I look at things is that I'm not very good at sculpting or creating rock surfaces. I've tried and failed, and I'm just not very good at it. There are some people out there on Facebook and Instagram that create Warhammer style houses and villages and cobbled streets and flagstones, and they put all the supports with the wooden supports and the little windows and the thatched roofs, and they are unbelievable. I do not possess that talent to do that. I think in the future it's something I would love to learn, but right now, filming battle reports, I just don't have the time. So I look at things and think, well, how can I save time to get as many battle reports out, to film as much content as I can, and to get on with projects for the channel? And this to me just seemed an absolute no-brainer. And all you need to do is just take it out of the box, stick it on your board, and you're done. It's brilliant. There is a little drawback to it, however. You'll see here in this frame here, it doesn't quite fit. You can see around here there's some white edges, and that's because these products aren't 2 foot square. And why would they? The guy, or the person rather, that designed these didn't think, I know people in playing war games on 6x4, 2x2 or 4x4 tables will buy these and they'll use them loads. I totally get that. So they're about, on one side, they're about 1.5 inches, and on the other about 1/2 inch too small for a 2x2 board. So when you buy these, if I give you an example of a 6x4, you obviously need 6. But on one side you end up with a really big gap, and on the other side you end up with a little gap which runs either length or width of the board depending on how you orientate them. So to that end, if you are going to use these in future in your own boards at home, you need to buy a 7th one. And the reason why you need to do that is because you need to cut it up into sections to fill those gaps which the 6 boards leave behind. So on one side you'll need 2 of those, and then on the other side you'll need 3 of those, and they can all be cut from that extra board that you purchase. Now, I do appreciate that does put this board quite expensive, so you might decide not to use it on a 6x4. What I have done in the past is, I've only got 4 of these, by the way, I should also mention that. So what I generally do when I use these, I either use them wholly for Adeptus Titanicus, which is a 4x4 of course, or when I use it for 30K, I put a 4x4 in one corner, and then I put kitchen tiles down on the other side, and then include a defence line just to break up the two, so you've got that kind of smooth plateau of a built-up area defended by defence lines and troops, then going out into this kind of moon rock face kind of wasteland. So you all know I like a bit of duality in my board, so I love the fact you go from like a rough textured moon surface to this beautiful smooth melter blasted plateau for building stuff on. So it works really well. And in this instance, we're just going to do a 2x2, and this gap I will need to fill. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this backwards here. So there is a gap at the front, which you might not be able to see. Sorry, I'm going to orientate the board. That's better. So there is this gap here, which I'm going to fill. But it's not that bad because the way the cameras are angled, so you don't see this gap at the front here, but it doesn't matter because the scene I'm going to be building is kind of just here, so we're not too worried about this area. Obviously, if you're building a much larger board, you'll have all these extra infill pieces. I didn't want to cut ½ inch section just for this because they are quite expensive, so I didn't want to do that. So hopefully you're okay with that. They do come in multiple colours. This is the grey one. I bought the grey one because it's the most generic and works with either salt for sand, for snow rather, red sand to represent a Mars or like a wasteland, or you can use the grey aggregate or the black aggregate rather, and it just fills all the holes and it looks really good. So it'll work for all three. I didn't buy the off-white one and I didn't buy the kind of orangey one. Because they'd be very limited use. So the grey is the best one. Of course, you can paint them to any colour you want. You can paint them blue for all you need. So, so they are really, really versatile. Now, I am going to be building a small kind of bay that will hold some silos and some pipes and various bits and bobs. And then in Firefight, we'll use this scene to do, I think I'm going to do plasma weaponry versus Thalax. It's quite interesting. We might do some Iron Hands as well, just to see if there's a difference. I haven't quite finalised that yet, so don't hold me to it. So we're going to build this. It's really, really easy and is so effective and so quick. You know, don't spend weeks whittling down a bit of polystyrene to get not a good as a result. You know, just spend 40 quid and it's done for you. And then that extra time you spent whittling all that down, you can just get on and play games or build scenery or build that massive backlog of models which you inevitably have got. I know I have. So let's get on with it. I'm gonna, first of all, which I've just dropped it, I'm going to use this. We've seen this before. It's just Foamex. I've used it for Adeptus Titanicus and 30k, and it's just scored some squares in it. And this will again get that duality back in the board, which I love. You know, we go from a rough textured surface to a really smooth surface that's been melter blasted for human or space marine inhabitants. Now, the problem that we do face on this particular textured surface is that items like this, they don't fit very well. So generally what we have to do is cut these down to the area that you want to fill. But I've got tons of this stuff in the garage, and you know, you can just nip downstairs and just cut a bit off and make a little circle or a square or whatever. But if it doesn't quite sit as flat as you would like it, we're going to use the aggregate to kind of smooth this texture out, pop this on, and then blend the hard lines from the rough surface to the smooth surface. But what you can do in the meantime is you can save yourself a little bit of effort by just moving it around the board to try and find the best fit. This is a bit too big actually. I have a small piece somewhere. Let me go find it. All right, I'm back. I found a smaller section, so this fits a lot better. And it fits really well on this corner, which is always the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate this board so this piece is closest to me. Orientate that slightly. There is quite a harsh gap here, but don't worry about that. We're going to fill it with aggregate. You'll never see it. So for me, that is the best solution here. Now, there is a huge void between the bottom of this and this, so we're going to have to fill that with aggregate or sand in this case. I'm going to use sand for this one, which I will do now, and then that will allow me for this to sit level, and then for me to start building my scene. Right, we're back with my friend Mr. Sand. Now what I'm going to do first of all, just to give you a representation of how good this product is, either with sand or aggregate, whatever, just sprinkle a little bit of sand on it. You don't need a lot at all. I mean, that's probably a couple of handfuls all over. And you can see immediately that that has just changed. Excuse me, sorry. That has just immediately changed the way we look at this board. The contrast between that sand and the aggregate, excuse me, and the baseboard is really, really striking. You know, and you could just absolutely leave it there because it just looks really, really cool. It just fills all the little nooks and crannies and just makes it look like, you know, this sand or this texture has been blown across this barren battlefield and settled into the deeper recesses of the board. So you could just absolutely leave it like that. But we are going to take it a step further. So I mentioned I'm just going to completely fill this end in. So I can put my base board on here. It's pretty good. Just going to smooth it out a little bit. I want to try and create a nice flat surface. Let's give it a try. It's definitely better. We need a tiny bit more, so just grab that. Got a big bucket of sand by my feet if you're wondering where this is all coming from. So that's fine. I'm just going to squish that out a little bit. I think that's a word, I don't know. All right, let's have a quick look at that. I'm just looking at the camera because I've already filmed this already, and the battery ran flat on my microphone. So I was talking for like 10 minutes, and then I looked up and the little light for the microphone had gone out. So I had to go downstairs, get some more batteries, and then and then refilm it. So it's not ideal. Anyway, that is way better. That is perfect. So it's a lot flatter and sits a lot better. Great. What I might do is I might just centralize this very quickly. Yeah, we'll centralize it a little bit. All right, I know there's a huge gap here, but don't worry about that. We'll fill that out in a little bit, so don't worry too much. But the most important thing really is to get this flat first. So we've got that now. One thing I want to introduce as well is a crater. I love a crater. So we're just going to put that in the foreground, just to make it a little bit more interesting and break it up. And again, you might just need to orientate it a little bit just to find the most perfect spot for it, but that is fantastic. And now we're going to put some of my favorite terrain. You know all about this, some crates. Now, the beauty of these is you can then use products or your scenery, your normal Games Workshop Forge World scenery, to fill these extra big gaps. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. It kind of feels right that that's there. I've got a little palette, which is from the old Games Workshop kind of munitions, and you kind of got the hedgehog defense lines and the little cross ones, and I mean that's years old. Battlefield accessory sprue, that's what it is. Bomb, I remembered. But they're still it's a really great product. I use loads of it. I've got some more barrels here, which I'm going to put. I'm going to put it here because it seems like a little bit of. Look like I've made a bit of a defensive structure here. I've got to include my little buddy. I've got this one. This always causes me a lot of questions. This was cut from the Forge World Realm of Battle tiles. You know, I cut my generator up. This is just one of the silos off it. It's cut up, filled with expanding foam again. Edges sanded flat and then painted, so that's no problem there. So we're going to use that in this piece just to give us a little bit of drama, a little bit of excitement. I'm going to pop that there. And then I want to introduce these pipelines. They can be a bit tricky. What I like to do in normal games, I like to just run them out to the board because they look really cool. So what we might do, I do really like this product from Games Workshop. I'm not a massive fan of the thermic plasma vent ones I love the little station with the little plasma vents can be cooked in and out, but I'm not a massive fan of the actual pipelines themselves. But I love that little kind of station detail that you get with them. But I love this product, it's really good. It looks a bit weird just kind of all across the board, so we need to kind of review that. Do you know what? I don't think it works. We're going to review that a little bit. I'm going to put it here. Let's do this actually. Let's do this. I think that's better. Oh, it won't stay. Really annoying. Okay, we'll put some sand under there and it will stay, no problem. Yeah, I kind of like that. I like how the pipeline sits out there. You can see that the concrete squares aren't the same as the square that we're working within, so they are on a slight angle, and that's why I've angled this pipeline here. I can kind of imagine that it's, you know, it was pulling some Promethean or something from much farther away in the battlefield, and it's kind of come to this point. Now, it would have been nice to maybe like make a bit more of a feature of this thing, because it's quite important, but for this instance we're not going to worry too much. And then we're going to put a silo next to it. Now, I appreciate this piece here goes nowhere, but for the sake of this little diorama, it doesn't matter, you can't see where it's going. So kind of like that. I want more crates, always want more crates. We'll use it as a bit of a backdrop, I think. And then we can send our little buddy out in the foreground there to try and looking like he's trying to fix the pipe. And then these hatches, which come off like the plasma vents and stuff like that, I really like the idea that they look like escape hatches. So I'm just going to pop it here, maybe here. I'm going to pop it over here, like it's an access panel or an escape hatch to get further down to where that pipe is. We're not going to use that piece, so we're going to pop that in here. Don't have too many crates. Yeah, let's leave that. Leave the crates alone, no more crates. Done. All right, so now we're going to add a load more sand to get this hard edge blend in, cover the barrels up, this bunker, and then the hard edge of this kind of concrete area here. All right, so I've added a bit more sand. I know it looks rough right now. Doesn't look very good at all. But it will do in a minute. Sometimes putting the stuff down isn't the best idea first. I don't think that works. That's really hard to blend. We're not going to use that. I don't think it adds anything to the board. Oh, this crater's filled up. I was a bit silly there. I filled the crater up and really should have blended it in. There you go. We want to actually see the crater. There you go. That's way better. Cool. We'll smoothen this area out. We'll just arrange those nicely in front of that crate. Now I know you're saying, well, you know, David, what you've done now is you've pretty much obscured a lot of the dual board underneath. And yeah, you're right, I have. But what you can do now is you can get your hand and just pull a lot of it back. And you could say to me, well, you shouldn't have put so much on. Yep, I could have done that, but it's just nice sometimes just to, because sometimes you only perhaps want to have it peeking through, and it's nice to now just push it around the board to get the desired effect. It does work. And you can imagine as well that this stuff heaps around objects a lot more. So, you know, as the prevailing wind is blowing everything, it's gathering up against anything that kind of blocks its path. Does look really good. We'll put a little bit on here just to show that it hasn't completely come unscathed. You know, if I had my airbrush handy, I perhaps would have brought my airbrush in here just to help blow this sand around. It can get a little bit messy, so maybe, you know, if you're at home and you haven't got a dedicated area, you might not want to do that because it will create a bit of mess, but it does help. Cool. Can put a little bit in there. Good. Cool. Quite happy. Oh God, I've just knocked it all off. Idiot. There we go. Easy fix. Easy fix. You know, and it's good to have this kind of defining line between the little concrete area here to the, so you can see there, because, you know, if you look at a curb by the beach, You know, some sand has collected up against the curb, but you can still see the leading edge of the curb. So, you know, that kind of works. Yeah, I'm really happy with that, you know. I mean, I think this just demonstrates just how easy this can be. You know, and if you're happy to play with a bit of sand every so often, why not? Just going to scoop this up over here a little bit, get rid of this piece, we don't need this anymore. And like I said before, you know, if you're building a diorama, this would be great. You know, you don't even need to use the whole thing. You could use a quarter of it, or what would look really cool would be a circle. So instead of a standard 2x2 square, use a just under a 2x2 circle. You know, that would look really cool. So it can be seen at all angles. You know, doesn't always have to be just seen from the front. With a circle, you feel more inclined to turn it and look at different angles. Where the square, you just look at it straight on. So a circle would look really cool. And you know, we talk a little bit about circles. You know, a lot of you have seen that that really big 3 foot, it's about 3 foot diameter landing area which I built, which is just made from loads of the little tiles which I made on my K&K Zing, where I cut out a load of the Forge World tiles based from the Forge World board. And stuck them all together. It took ages, but it looks really cool. It's like a real big centerpiece, and I've used it in quite a few battle reports. It looks really effective. All right, I think I'm done. I'm going to put a little bit of sand on my buddy. Yeah, he doesn't come away unscathed. I'm just going to add one more thing. All right, I'm back. Took me ages to find it actually, but anyway, what I'm going to add some of these slate chips. Because they're the same colour of the baseboard. Another reason why I went for the grey one. Not too many. I don't want to take away from the sand there. I'm just going to, again, not too many. Yeah, just breaks it up a little bit. Can use a little bit of sand just to help blend some of those in. Yeah, that looks good. There's a bit of a hard edge on this side, which I just want to get rid of because it looks quite obvious it's just been plonked in place. Keep knocking these pipelines, that's the only downfall to them. They're a real pain. And when you're playing in game, they're so easy to knock, and then they're a pain. You spend ages fiddling and putting that together, but they do look very cool though. I do love them. All right, I think that's it. Quick clear down. Get some models. We'll use the Thalax, seems we're going to use them in the next one maybe. And the bases are already the same colour. I do love a Thalax model. I'm sure you are all well aware or bored of that fact. I'm not sure. We use a Cybot Ocularis there, exploring the depths of that crater. There we go, that looks good. What should we have? A vehicle? Let's have a vehicle. Why not? We'll go back to, yeah, yellow looks quite good on there. There we go. That is the scene done. I think it looks really cool. It's got a lot going on in such a small space. You've got this crater, suggests there's been bombardment or a shell or something has just hit this particular area. Maybe it's what caused the pipeline to break. Maybe we missed a trick there. Maybe we should have just put it closer to the crater. Who knows? We've got our little buddy there out the front trying to repair that pipeline, bring it back into service. We've got a silo which we can assume is storing the product or the raw material or the resource which we're extracting via this pipeline. And then of course every battlefield is not complete without crates and containers. You know, Space Marines, Mechanicum, Solar Auxilia, Militia, whatever, they go to these planets, they need stuff shipping, and they will come in the form of these crates, and we can see they've started to unload some items here. You know, who owns this refinery? Is it the Imperial Fist or is it Mechanicum? Who knows? I'll let you decide. I really hope you've enjoyed that. I hope I've opened your eyes to another product which you can use for either display or diorama purposes, or as we use on the channel, for your baseboard to then build upon. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed filming this for you. I'd love to hear your comments. Please email me, david@thekchannel.com, or you can contact me on social media. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to stay tuned after this video to see the photos from today's Setting the Scene.